Hello everybody, welcome to iExamB. Embrace the iExamB learning experience. If you are targeting SEBI Legal 2024 exam, if you want to prepare for SEBI Legal 2024 exam, then the first thing that you should refer to is the previous year papers. You should understand how many questions came from each act and what are the type of questions that came from all these acts. In this video, we are going to address the first question: how many questions were there from each act in SEBI legal exam over the past 3 years. So we'll be talking about 2020, 2022 and 2023 previous year papers. This year in 2023, the pattern of the exam has changed. The phase 1 pattern is same. There are two papers. Paper 1 is your multiple choice question QRE-GA. Paper 2 is your law. The cutoff is 40% overall. Aggregate cutoff out of 200 is 40%, that is 80 marks. If you see the phase 1 syllabus, earlier in the phase 1 syllabus, all these topics were there. But now the syllabus of phase 1 has been changed. Securities law, companies law, criminal law has been moved to phase 2. So now in phase 1, Constitution of India, contract law, civil laws, administrative law, law of torts, Consumer Protection Act, these are the topics that are present. So we will be discussing the number of questions based on the new syllabus, but we'll also see how many questions came in the previous years. This is what is the figure of the number of questions. Constitution of India this year had 20% weightage and there were 9 questions. Over the past years, there has been 9, 6, 3 and 6 questions from Constitution of India. You can pause the screen here, you can take a screenshot to understand how many questions came from each of these acts. Indian Contract Act, Specific Relief Act, Partnership Act, Sale of Goods Act. These come under law of contracts. In the previous years, there may or may not have been questions from Specific Relief Act and Partnership Act, but this year the questions were equally divided. From these 4 areas which had 25% weightage, around 12 to 13 questions were expected and 14 questions came from these areas. Then your CPC, transfer of property, arbitration. Questions have been consistent but not too many. If you see CPC 2, 1, 3, 1 and this year 4 questions came from CPC. Then Transfer of Property Act has shown consistency. There has been questions from this. From arbitration also you can see there has been questions every year. Limitation Act was introduced this year. Similarly, Sale of Goods Act was also introduced this year only. From Limitation Act this year there has been 3 questions. Administrative law, jurisprudence, Latin terms and maxims. This Latin terms and maxims is one topic from which every year you can see many questions. This year there were 6 questions. And then Law of Torts and Consumer Protection Act. So this was the entire areas in which the questions were divided over the various acts in phase 1. Now coming to your phase 2. The phase 2 exam pattern has now been divided into objective and subjective questions, and also the syllabus has been changed. Paper 1 is still descriptive English. Paper 2 has 70 MCQs, objective type questions, and 3 descriptive type questions of 10 marks each. This has been the weightage, the marks of the total papers of phase 2. Earlier phase 2 syllabus had all the topics of phase 1 plus some additional acts like LLP, Insolvency Bankruptcy Code, taxation, few more chapters of Constitution of India, few more chapters of criminal law. But now the syllabus of phase 2 has been changed. Syllabus of phase 2 exclusively consists of criminal law, evidence, corporate law and securities law, and regulations were also introduced. These have been the number of questions from these areas. 2023 phase 1 had 70 objective questions and these were divided in this ratio. CRPC, IPC evidence has been there in various phases. Earlier, the number of questions from these topics were less, but this time there were around 22 questions. It had 30% weightage, so 21 questions were expected, 22 questions were there from CRPC, IPC and evidence. Then Companies, IBC, LLP. Companies Act has hold considerable weightage over the past years. In 2022 phase 1 you can see 16 questions were there. And this year there has been 10 questions from Companies Act, 7 from IBC, 4 from LLP. This had 30% weightage and you can see 21 questions here also. And from here, from Securities Law and Regulation which had 40% weightage, 28 questions were expected. And you can see 27 questions came from Securities Laws and Regulations. There were 19 questions from SEBI Act, SCR and Depository Act. This was there in the previous syllabus as well and you can see the number of questions. From the rules and regulations that were added, There were not too many questions and neither were they very difficult. Quite direct questions were asked. There was one question from SAT procedure rules. There was one question from fraudulent and unfair trade practices regulations, two from prohibition of insider trading, two from securities contract, stock exchange and clearing corporation, and two from depository and participant regulations. So this is the way in which these questions were divided. Now here, if you want me to discuss topic wise all these questions, act wise what all questions came over the past years, I'll take them up in my subsequent videos, but only if I get too many requests. So if you need it, please mention that in the comment below, and in the next series of videos, I'll be covering act wise what all questions came over the past years in the SEBI examinations. This year descriptive part was also introduced in phase 2, and in descriptive part you had a choice of 3 questions out of 5. So you had to attempt 3 questions and there were 5 questions given. One question was from CRPC, one from evidence, one from IPC, and 2 were from Companies Act. These were all the questions. There was a question on the difference between warrant case and summon case and explain the procedure of a warrant trial. Then a short note on corporate veil and what do you understand by lifting of corporate veil. A short question was on quorum of the public company. Explain any 5 types of evidence under Evidence Act, and what do you understand by common intention in criminal law. Explain using relevant provisions from IPC. So these were the 5 questions and you had to attempt 3. Each question was of 10 marks. I hope this has given you some clarity. Descriptive questions were not that tough. They were direct questions. Not too much case laws are required to be studied. In the objective part, we haven't seen a single case law being asked. And the descriptive questions in which you may need to write the case laws, the questions were quite direct. You can download all these previous year papers from our website. You can find the link to reach out this page in the description below. We have SEBI Grade A Officer Phase 2 and Phase 1 previous year papers. You will find 2020, 2022 and 2023 papers all there on these pages. You can find the link in the description below. I also want to talk about a workshop that I'm conducting on 10th of February at 5 p.m. You can find the registration link in the description. We have recorded many success stories of the candidates who have cleared the exam this year, in 2020 and also in 2022. In this workshop, we are going to delve into those success stories. We are going to understand what we can learn from these success stories, what strategies we can incorporate in our preparation. So whether you are a working professional or whether you are a fresh graduate, whether it's your first attempt or second attempt, you can find success stories in all these domains. And how you can take cues from the successful candidates, incorporate them in your preparation strategy and prepare for SEBI legal exam in 2024. This is what we are going to discuss in this workshop. So register for the workshop using the link in the description. Workshop is on 10th of February at 5 p.m. If you have any queries, any doubts, you can mention them in the comment below or you can reach out to us on this number. We at iExamBee help you prepare 50% faster with a crisp and concise content. Subscribe to our channel. Stay tuned. Thank you.